Which video would you click on? This one or this one? Whichever one you chose, my point is this. We decide in milliseconds which video we're going to watch. Even the smallest changes to colour or text can make a massive difference. That same snap decision is being made by your potential viewers every time you get an impression. So what are some small adjustments that you can make to win more of those battles? Over the last 3 years, I've created hundreds of thumbnails across different channels. In that time, my thumbnails have transformed massively, and I've learnt a lot about what works and what doesn't. So in this video, I'll share with you some key design tips that I started implementing that helped my thumbnails get better and better, and made my click-through rate get much better too. I'll also show you a couple of common mistakes that even some big creators don't realise. Firstly, text on thumbnails can make or break your designs. Keeping it short and sweet is my biggest takeaway. Try and stick to no more than 6 words that reference an important part of your video. This avoids confusion and allows room for intrigue. For videos where you're reacting to something or referencing someone else, short quotes work really well. Secondly, make sure you use a bold and clear font, and use some drop shadow and maybe a small stroke to make sure that it stands out. This often works best for white text on colourful backgrounds. Also, using white text in a coloured red box can look really effective too, like you can see in my recent thumbnails. This looks much better than just red text. Also, adding a white glow to this can make it pop even more. Another important point is to use your thumbnail text to reference something different from the title. Don't waste space by repeating the same message. Create more viewer intrigue by including something else about the video. Moving on from text, your thumbnail's main focus image should be clear and noticeable, whether it's yourself, a celebrity, or an object. And instead of just leaving your image unedited, do this instead. Select around your main image, copy and paste this onto a new layer, and then add a drop shadow. Then Gaussian blur the background slightly, and maybe lower the opacity to make the background darker than your subject. This will really ensure that your main image is clear to the viewer and stands out. Another cool thing I used to play with was putting this main image slightly in front of your text to create a nice effect and also add more depth to your design. Oh, and make sure your thumbnail is well proportioned and as symmetrical as possible so that perfectionists like me can sleep at night. Now onto colours, arguably the most important thing when it comes to thumbnail design. Some of the most effective colour combinations that I use are red and blue, red and green, and often white alongside another colour. One specific design technique that I think looks really good is using a gradient that goes from your colour to transparent. This on top of your original background can really bring it to life and give it an extra burst of colour. I find this is particularly good for contrasting thumbnails, where you're showing like a before and an after. Also, why not add a few extra little touches to your thumbnails to make them more eye-catching? For example, with ember effects or electricity effects. You could even add a blur or a colour change to these effects to make them look even better with your thumbnail. Now let's go into some mistakes that many creators make and have no idea they're doing it. I've been a victim of this myself. A huge proportion of viewers on YouTube use dark mode. So if you make any thumbnails that are predominantly dark grey, they might be harder to see and blend more into the background, like this recent thumbnail I made. And therefore, they would benefit a lot more from having a more colourful background. So maybe also think about this side of things when you're making thumbnails too, and how your viewers will actually find your thumbnail. Also, another mistake that many creators don't realise, very similar to that last one, is not taking account of the video duration number that often sits at the bottom right of our thumbnails. Therefore, I advise that you never put text on the bottom of a thumbnail. as it's likely to be partially covered up by this little duration bar, meaning many viewers may not be able to make sense of your text. Those two things might seem like such a small and unique problem, but as I mentioned earlier, these tiny thumbnail tweaks can have a massive difference to a video's reach. A small change to one of these mistakes could actually show itself very quickly in your analytics. The biggest creators have spent years refining little things like this, and I'm very aware that some of you may not have the time to always work on your thumbnails and perfect them. That's why, alongside giving you these tips, we are also providing thumbnail design services as well as our video editing services, where we can handle this side of things for you. So if you're short on time and need help making amazing thumbnails, visit our website down below. And for more value, please hit that subscribe button. Peace.